Everything has changed, as you've heard me say, and that's just a little bit. No, Donald Trump's not my God. I mean, come on. Can you get a clue? Jesus is the Savior. Been preaching to him for 40 years. I just don't want to see America go to the dogs. I live here. My family's here. My grandchildren are here. I'd like to see it stick around a little bit longer, wouldn't you? Joining us right now from somewhere, some location, somewhere around the world, it's Mike from around the world.
God bless you, Pastor Paul. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great tonight, Mike. You know we're competing against the President of the United States getting ready to give his speech tonight.
Yeah, I know. That's we're going to lose. We're losing.
We're going to lose this one. But here's the good news. We can watch it, and that's what's so great. We can watch the whole speech afterwards. It'll be just as good.
Oh yeah, I think I'll tell you what, Pastor Paul. That's not the same person.
That's the title of today's broadcast. Everything has changed. Let's start with him. He's changed, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, big time, big time. And you know what's so funny is, well, not funny, but ever since this happened, those who've been in a similar situation, they have an understanding that when something like that happens, you reconsider your entire life.
Yes.
I mean, it really brings everything close to home, and you can tell it. You know, anybody who's ever been through similar situations, you can tell a person goes through a change. And a couple of times they caught him on video praying.
Yeah,
right? Seriously praying in private. This is in private.
In
now.
private, they've caught him
not
praying
for show.
Right.
So there's been some big changes. I think it's a good thing. It's timely.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat. Well, it's timely, but there's always a but. This issue, the Republican Party is changing big time, right?
Yes, you can see it. Yeah.
But you still have those components of people in the world who are so full of hate, so full of hatred, that they have pulled out the stops. We're talking about fake news broadcasts.
Yeah.
There's been some compromises in several different areas that will eventually come out. People being compromised, that's no good, because this attempt on his life, if you look at this attempt on his life, it does not make sense.
Yeah, tell us about that. Tell us about it.
Well, this thing about this, that he had a Secret Service. They were present, right? And I'll be the first to tell you that the Secret Service needs to be deeply questioned.
Serious
about this whole event, right?
Okay.
Because he should have never taken that podium. He should have never been on that stage.
Because
they have an understanding of that.
Is it because I did see video where they identified the shooter an hour. He was a person of interest 1 hour before the shooting.
Yeah, he had a rangefinder. Rangefinder, and they knew that. So at 5:51 p.m., right? They sent out an alert. The alert came through for this guy at 6:00, right?
Yeah.
At 6:00, Trump takes the stage. They were notified at 5:51 p.m. He should have never been up on that stage until that threat was cleared.
Right.
Even if it was a bird which had a shiny medallion on it,
right?
He should have never gone on that stage. Now that lets me know right there that I hate to say this, so I'm going to jump out on this limb.
Go right ahead.
If he went on that stage, and they were indeed alerted at 5:51 p.m., which they were, someone was compromised.
Yeah,
someone was compromised. This individual, by the way, looking at his, if you were to know certain facts about this individual, number one, how is it possible that this 20-year-old, around his 20s, did not have a digital footprint? Right? What is that?
That's crazy.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. Yet he had, there were some other connections that they haven't bought out yet. that will come out.
They found a second phone. Is that right?
Well, yeah, he had two phones, but still, of the two phones, he had no digital footprint. And
That's impossible, isn't it?
unusual, right? He had contacts, but they led nowhere. They came out with some story. They ambitiously came out with, they had to withdraw it. Something with a Steam account where he made a comment, but no, that was fake. They had to withdraw that. And so he had no digital footprint, no real interactions. And that's odd. Especially, we live in a time, they knew about the threat of Iran, 15 days ago, right? Yeah, it's planned too perfectly, right? That shot where he fired had one blind spot. A police officer did see this guy, and the police officer was injured, so was the person below the police officer, because the police officer looked up over the roof, right? He had to let go because they pointed the gun on him. He fell down, hurt his ankle.
Down, yep.
The other person was hurt in the process too. But there were other folks standing around. That's why the alert went out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me 10 minutes elapsed, and their boss got that radio call. So did a few others. But Secret Service is so trusting. No one acts on their own. It's very coordinated type of security detail, you could say. It's very important that you listen to those orders given to you, right?
Right.
You can't act outside of that because you mess up the entire, that choreographed protection shield that they put around the individual. Well, there was a compromise involved. That's the only way. No one was given an order to stay they should have not let him on stage no matter what he said. His life was on the line here, right? You have to clear that area. All suspicions, everything has to be, it has to be quiet before that takes place.
Is that why, Mike, sometimes, when the president's supposed to speak and he might be a 15-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute delay, it's because that happens. All threats are got to be eliminated first, right?
That's right. That's right. And any suspicion has to be checked out. You don't let somebody on the stage with a suspicion like that. And given the area that he was in, right? Every area he goes to, they do their homework.
Right.
As far as crime rates, probability of, there's a lot of unhinged people out there. He should have at least been in some sort of protective box. They call it a box. He should have been in one of those where if a bullet did, come, it would hit that box anyway, not him. But knowing it was too convenient. Yeah. It was too planned. I hate to say that. Yeah. It's too planned. I was kind of outraged when it happened because of the security lapse.
Yeah.
How can Secret Service? Their reaction was perfect. They responded perfectly.
Yeah.
My problem was the radio call that came through at 5:51, and then 6 p.m. he takes the stage, and no one halted him. No one stopped him. They didn't do anything. I'd feel safer after he's president.
Yes.
That someone would do an inquiry, and here's why. This was coordinated through perfect elements. And what I mean by that, you have this unassuming individual, right, who just hops up on a roof and takes a pop shot at the president.
That's right? Crazy.
With he had some, to my understanding, that was some very expensive equipment.
Yep.
There was, it was,
where did he get that?
It seemed like some high-level coordination was involved here, right?
Yes.
He was in a perfect spot where nobody could really get him, right? As soon as he fired, Secret Service fires back. Now, there were two snipers on the roof. You mean to tell me they couldn't see him?
They could see him.
I hope, it's all wrong.
So in other words, the situation was set up to where he had the free reign to go and get up on this roof with expensive guns and scopes. He had on. He also had a life, bulletproof vest. Right.
Yeah. He had armor on.
He had more magazines. He had 100 rounds. Yeah. He packed all this stuff up there with the president getting ready to get on the thing. And And then I saw the Secret Service director, and she was asked why in the world was there nobody there or protecting that, and she said, "Well, there was a sloped roof," which is ridiculous because there was already the two snipers that they did have were up on sloped roofs, even steeper. That's ridiculous.
Right.
So, and then I saw her last night. She was at the Republican convention, and 4 senators, including Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, they had this lady surrounded, and they were asking her the tough questions.
Because I think they suspect you can't. She was the boss. Yep. How could she not? How could she not? Comply with standard Secret Service protective measures. A standard operating procedure. And then all the information that was pulled on this guy. They can do that within. I'll give you an example. Probably yesterday, maybe today, some news came out about some dealings. Financial dealings, I'll put it that way. But that was known day one. That was known day one.
Okay, that just came out.
Day 2, not day 3. That was known day one.
You're referring to the 3 encrypted accounts that from overseas?
Whatever they called it.
You mean they knew this day 1? We just now get this on day 5.
You do that, when you do information gathering, right? Okay. A lot of information comes back on day 1. Right? They can't release everything to the public as they get it naturally. It's an open investigation. So, but they had all this on this guy, and I'm telling you now, he had no digital footprint. It was almost like he was a stooge.
Yeah.
His family was concerned. A week before this happened, his family inquired about his safety, about his whereabouts. There was an indication that something was not quite right. A week before this happened. And here he is wandering around with a scope, with a rangefinder. He was identified by at least, 8 personnel, and nothing was done, right? Now, when Secret Service has a suspicion of anybody roaming around, that's like, standard operating procedure number 1. If somebody's roaming around, right, or especially with a high-level target like Trump or a high-level individual,
right,
you do not just allow people to roam around. Look, he was suspect. They knew he had a rangefinder, right? You can't just ignore that. You can't ignore that.
So how many people did it take? How many people? Oh, by the way, and the gates were padlocked too. When they got Trump into the SUV, down the steps into the SUV, as the SUV is trying to get to the hospital, the main gates where he came in was completely padlocked. They had to ram through to break through the gates with the car. But anyway, how many people would have to be involved in this, Mike, for this to be set up, in your opinion?
Well, you have a couple scenarios. It doesn't take too many. It takes a little time, but it doesn't take too many. Overseas and in other places, Pascal, they're constantly recruiting people. Right.
Yeah.
Let me give an example of that. We had a political wedge in this country. So naturally, enemy states will take advantage of that wedge, right? And they will recruit if they can. They will have somebody befriend a person, kind of like these scams. When a person runs a scam and they have someone give them money because they need to get some something through customs and all that stuff. Same type scam, but in this case, these people are befriended, right? And whoever that friend is, whoever this person is, will talk them into doing things just like that, right? So, and that takes a lot. That takes time, right? It takes time,
right?
So naturally, they're going to hunt for that individual, but this person has no digital footprint, which means somebody on the outside has been guiding this person into what to do and when, right? Because you cannot have contacts like that without a digital footprint or trail. You can't do that. And so that was highly avoided, right? So the whole thing is very suspicious. Now, it is natural that when something like this happens, in lieu of a security failure, naturally, some people just immediately blame this on some enemy state. They'll do it all the time.
Is that a cover-up, though?
This person did it.
Is that kind of part of the cover-up, maybe?
Well, it's happened too many times. You know,
Okay.
when they have a security failure to save face, they'll try to say, you know, somebody else did. But in this case, it was a known. It is known that a hit has been put out on the USA, right? So in
Yeah.
other words, you have all these coordinated states who are they're going to take advantage of the USA at the slightest weakness. And just before this happened, you know, I was trying to explain to a group of people that because of Biden's performance, countries began to get nervous because they knew Trump was coming back into power, and they have two alternatives: either do something to the USA prior to Trump getting back into power, right? Uh, or they're going to have to start negotiating right away with Trump. Now that's just not going to happen. But so they would make a move before he gets back into power. They're pressed. If he gets back into power, he will subdue them with military force.
Right.
And other means, they already know this, which is why China dropped their nuclear agreement with the USA. They're out, right? They're out.
In other words, they can do
3 days ago.
they can do what they want now. They've dropped their agreement.
They had talks, right? They were, you know, the USA and China were in talks. We had an arrangement, an agreement, and what that does is it keeps all these countries kind of level-headed concerning these weapons of mass destruction. But China's out. China's done. Why? Because we have armed Taiwan, right, with more. All this time we've been arming Taiwan, just so you know. And China's done with that, right? They're done with that. They also been talking to President Putin. Putin also understands that the clock is ticking, right?
Right.
He understands the clock is ticking. So communication-wise, these external countries are under a bit of pressure. They know that everything is about to shift. And what that means is they have to make a move quick. Right. They have to do what they have to do prior to President Trump getting back in office again. I mean, it's kind of clear right now that there's no opposition towards this.
Well, you know, Mike, let me ask you real quick: is NATO today contacted President Trump and said, "We're over here, we're meeting, and we're preparing for your next term"? Okay, so we just want to get out ahead of this now and tell you, we're not going to fight you. Yeah. We want to embrace you. Is that true?
Today, Europe cut funding to the Ukraine. Put it that way. They're adjusting their finances, right? So the entire financial system is starting to change over now. Remember, you have evil elements. Right. You have very vicious evil elements, and what I know there's one. It looks like there's going to be one outcome, but I'll tell you this: you have evil elements within this country and abroad, around the world. They have operatives all over the place. They will continue to brainwash the operatives, right? And meaning they're going to start a lot of strife. Now it's going to be twice as polarized. I'll tell you why. What happened to President Trump will charge the Republican base to be quite level-headed, because not only did he go through something, right, but they almost lost a leader. We almost lost a leader. Yeah. And so they're going to be different. They're going to be a bit different, very thankful. So their strategy is going to change a bit, and they're going to have much more resolve, while the other side is going to be much more opposing to it. I mean, this is something right out of the devil's playbook to influence this issue to take place.
Do you think the devil, okay, when you say influence, the devil seems to have been trying several different angles of ways to stop Trump from getting back in office and to also to destroy America? I mean, haven't we been witnessing, from our education system to the southern border to the weakening of our
doing this since day one.
Weakening our military, the cancel culture, this woke agenda, godlessness, taking prayer out of school, abortion being legalized, and we could go on forever. Yeah. But it seemed like it had really come into a head with law warfare on Trump, with the media, the lies, Russia, the collusion, the Mueller, That's
one aspect of it. I'll tell you something, Pastor Paul. Okay. I'm been in the back door. I've been in the backyard where Satan is, right?
Okay.
So I know a lot of his tactics. And one of his greatest tactics is he will often build people up in pride, right? This is how he primes the explosive. He'll build people up in pride. And as soon as they get to a specific level in pride, he already understands that God resists the proud.
Yeah.
God will always resist the proud, which means a person is vulnerable when they're in a prideful moment.
Yeah.
And he'll build people up in pride. And as soon as they get up to a specific level, he comes in with a mallet for a maximum blow. He does this with relationships. He does this in people's lives. He does it with countries. And if more and more people can identify it, that method would not work. But it does work because people get built up in pride. And as soon as they let their guard down, right?
Yeah.
He'll strike. But he wants a maximum blow. He didn't want a small blow. So he wants to get a person when they can see the breakthrough, when they're about to go over the mountain, right? When they start to throw caution to the wind, he'll tell all his imps, get away, let them go. Should they build themselves up in pride, he'll wait until they're at their highest point, and he will knock the legs out from under the entire operation.
Wow.
This is how Satan works. This is why, this entire issue requires the people in this issue, they require prayer, because only the saints
Amen.
have the ability to identify such, right? You can't expect a worldly person or people to identify the work of Satan, right? But we can. And Satan will do this every single time, which is why a lot of people get so discouraged, because Satan will wait until they get to the plateau of a situation, family life, whatever the case is, and he will attempt to give them a maximum blow.
Amen.
Right? So now, in this case, you have a lot of people. Trump has been humbled naturally.
Yes.
He's got his family members have been humbled.
Yes.
Well, except one. But I won't go there.
Okay.
But his family members been humbled. People have been humbled, but still, you're going to have people in there that they are Republicans. They're with the party, but I'm telling you now, they're not Republicans, and they're certainly not with the party.
So the enemy's still in the camp. They're still in the camp.
They are there to amplify the pride side of things.
I see.
And this puts the entire body of Christ at war, right, with evil itself, because as they try to build up this issue, and you'll see it begin to alter. Normally, the full alteration takes about 10 days. I only say that because I've seen it happen so many times. You'll start to see people change the narrative. They'll get away from the thankful part and get back into the aggressive part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's not
and
good.
And then they'll get back into the entitlement part. So they'll try to slowly alter the entire situation, and it will end up, if we don't pray, Satan also has a habit of using, because Satan can use anybody in a moment of weakness. Doesn't matter if they're a believer or unbeliever. Satan can use anybody in a moment of weakness.
Right.
And we have a mandate to pray for our leaders. We do. Right? We are
Amen.
to pray
Yes,
for our
we
leaders,
do.
to cover them, to
Yes,
intercede.
we do.
If we don't comply with God's word, we cannot, because God put the power to flow through us. He can do it himself. It does not need us.
Amen.
But he assigned us, to assist in this kingdom building here on this earth. And so if we don't comply, people are going to see this this could be a beautiful situation, because you have more Democrats now changing what they are. They used to be Democrat, right? Now they're going back to, nope, I don't want to be that. I need to be, I'm
something
jumping
else.
parties.
Yeah, they're jumping.
That's what you have, a lot of parties jumping right now.
Yeah, you do.
Right now you have that happening.
Let me ask you a question, Mike, also about President Biden. Okay, so, he's under a severe pressure by all the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi now, Chuck Schumer, Jeffries, President Obama. They're all putting the pressure. He comes down with COVID, or at least that's the narrative, and he quits his tour, goes back to Delaware. He goes down into the basement. Is it over? Do you see him stepping out off the ticket maybe by this weekend? Or do you also, but is it more than just getting off the ticket? Do you see him resigning from the office?
They, Pascal, like I said, what was it, a couple of weeks ago? They want him to resign.
Yeah.
the whole thing
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
right? Because they understand that when you hit a point, and when any of this can happen to anybody when they reach a certain age, everybody is different.
Sure.
But without a warning or anything, people go through a sharp cognitive decline. And with this pressure that's being added on him, right? Clearly he's frustrated.
Yeah.
It's taking a toll. So I wasn't surprised that something would come up where he would kind of bow out. No more interviews or any of that stuff. They really want him to go, because if he does not, they understand that they could lose everything.
Everything.
Right? And they just want him to, back up. They're trying to do it where they're trying to get him to decide for himself, so they can say he decided to resign. Right. He decided his time was up. If they have to go the other route, they will do it. There are too many people. There are 200 Democrats in power, and a great majority of them have made a decision. It's time for him to go.
He's got to go.
Right?
Yeah.
You have some outspoken ones that say, no, we want him to finish the work, but his decline is accelerating, and it's becoming obvious. I personally think that the majority of the country, those who really care about this country, they're seeing something different. Even some of the folks who are, some of the Democrat news channels can see it now, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah,
we're at a very vulnerable position, because I'm not going to be. I would not be surprised if now more than ever America gets assaulted. I would not be surprised.
Who do you think's our biggest enemy right now? Who could assault us? Is it Russia? Is it China? Is it somebody else? Is it Iran or Turkey or somebody?
You have a Middle Eastern affiliation, or you have a Middle Eastern coalition right now that includes Russia and China, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't really separate them. So if we do have an attack, the masterminds behind a lot of what's been happening anyway has been Iran, believe it or not. Iran has been the architect of things that have made Russia. Russia had to make specific moves specifically because of Iran. I don't think that the average person understands just how strong the resources of Iran really are.
Right. You've been saying that they're technologically,
people are not taught that way.
Yeah, you've been saying over a period of time that they are a lot more technical advanced than what anybody wants to give them credit for.
Also, they don't need anybody's money. How do people think Russia? Who do you think the primary supporter of Russia is beyond the public fiasco of these books? Who has the biggest deals with Russia? It's Iran.
Yeah,
right?
You're
Without
right.
Iran, the Russian economy would collapse. Europe is not enough, right? Europe a couple of times has severed they severed their consumption of things, and it didn't even put a dent in Iran's pocket. Iran doesn't care about money. We can sanction them all day. That's a public fiasco because they deal with $1 trillion of transactions. This is every single month. How is that happening? This is every month.
I don't know.
Every month. And they're underwriters on some of the many of the oil platforms out there. Do you not know that Iran owns a lot of that? And so we're dealing with that issue.
Yeah.
Now, where's that put the USA with the Donald Trump issue? Everybody was given an example of what darkness is willing to do. And it's up to the body of Christ. Now, God can initiate. He often initiates an atmosphere of revival.
Yes, amen.
But he, everything he doesn't force us to do anything. We must choose it. We must choose to obey him in our prayers for our leaders. We must choose to do these things. And of course, he'll compliment. He'll fulfill his word if we choose him in his way. But if we choose our own way, it's all going to fall apart. And within 10 days, we're going to see exactly where everybody stands. Because I can almost guarantee you an issue, a situation is rising right now. If people think this assassination attempt was one isolated event, they're wrong. And time will tell it. I mean, a short time.
Do you think that there's going to be a second, third, fourth, maybe attempt on President Trump's life?
They will do any and everything they can do to disrupt the American mechanism. Period. They're trying to fight before anybody can engage another country. Right? You have to twist the minds of the populace. You have to break their backs as far as their faith in their own country. If you can do that, you can isolate the rest of the components, and you can pit them one against the other.
Amen. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's important right now because you're looking at influences that are embedded within the USA. There's no way to go round them up. They have no real headquarters. They're communicating on platforms within the USA right now. Right?
Yep.
We have a date coming up. Don't ask me what will happen. I don't know, but I'm watching 727, not because the numbers match. 727, that one, and what's the other one I wrote down? I have to be careful with these things. I don't want to jumble them up.
Okay.
But 727 and 729.
Okay.
I'm watching those dates, 727 and 729.
Is this something that may happen in America or where?
Oh, yes, for us. No, it's for us.
Okay.
And this is for America. And Pastor Paul, I'll tell you, the Lord has been so gracious, right? The thing about the stone steps, right?
Yep.
That I saw, the thing before that about Putin and his Navy, where the president walked away. And in that case, it was President Obama. I remember telling that. It was around 2014. I was talking to everybody about the president of the United States walked away from a conversation of leaders, and Russia was planning an attack on the world, basically. And that was 2014. The description of the Lord showed me exactly where they were. He described it. So I described it, telling everybody. And then one of the people in COT pointed that out as it was on the news. She said, those are the white tents on the concrete platform right beside the water. It's quite specific. In this case, that was Obama's time when he walked away arrogantly from them. Putin has not stopped his stuff since. Right. In fact, he went right to the Middle East after that. Well, with Trump and the stone steps and what happened in America afterward, because his country was polarized.
So, Mike,
it was almost like
to help clarify for people, because people don't listen half the time. You told us on Saturday night that what we saw, that was the stone steps. I mean, that was the
I tell you what, Basketball, that when they took him. When he got up and they took him down, right? Now, just imagine the Lord shows you a specific person, right?
Yeah, you said it was
this
Trump.
This specific person is in distress. It looks like,
right?
And they're escorting him down the steps. And because one day you said, "Was he in handcuffs?" I said, "No, I don't think so."
You said no,
because it didn't look like some friendly situation. Like he was not smiling. I remember saying that too. No, he was not smiling, and that he went right to that black.
SUV,
that black vehicle. So,
that was the event.
But right after that, right? So we had the brown cloud. In that same dream was a brown cloud with tentacles that came from the west that went all
brown
over the place.
Cloud.
I believe that was COVID-19.
Okay,
before the stone steps, it was a brown cloud.
With tentacles
that went all over the place. Right?
Yeah.
In the USA, I believe that was COVID-19. One of the first cases we had in COVID-19 was on the West Coast, remember?
Yeah.
Remember they were trying to stop air traffic coming to the West Coast.
Yep.
And then it went all over America from there. I believe that was COVID-19. Then we have this issue with President Trump. Here's what's so strange to every single detail is that when I looked at these guys, right?
Yeah.
You know how in a dream when you look at someone, you see them and you see this resemblance. Unless they're the figure that was in the middle was Trump. Unless they're right there, it's kind of like you see them, but you don't see them, right? So I was looking for recognizable. I didn't recognize the uniforms they were in. I called them uniforms, right? I didn't recognize them because it wasn't military. I was looking for a military uniform sometime, and I remember the hats, right? I remember the hats, but the uniforms I couldn't recognize, and so. Yeah, I believe that was it. But what comes after? And because the people fit the situation, right? The circumstance fits the situation. The people were
let's clarify.
implacable. They couldn't. The people were not They're not exactly friends. Let's put it that way.
Let's clarify for people because they get confused. Mike has told us over a period of time there was this brown cloud that he saw coming into America with a lot of tentacles, and then of course COVID-19 hit. He had also the dream of Trump being led down the steps with guys in suits,
steps being escorted,
escorted down. He wasn't smiling. He was frowning, or he was distraught. He brought him down the steps and put him in a black SUV. We saw that happen Saturday, and we know that dream has been fulfilled. You still got the coffin dream.
Now, Pascal, that brown cloud, and the Trump, and the 20 million dead are all in the same dream.
Okay, the brown cloud, Trump, and the 20 million dead, that's all one dream. And so we've had two out of three. 2 out of 3 have already come to pass.
Yeah, it is. So what happened right after the people, right? The people were they were either for him or against him, right? Now that day it was so funny because you had news people coming on saying that the shooting was fake. You had a lot of fighting and fighting online. You had a lot happening online.
Right.
Some of the hate that's starting to spew out even today is just these people. It's just like people will not relent. And from when I hear stuff like that from Christians, from some believers, right? I know that people have their view of folks, but I'll tell everybody something right now. There was a time when a person looked at me, right? And because of my job, no way this guy's a Christian, right? Then when you get serious about your Christianity, like really serious, they will never believe. They just won't believe you're changing, right? They don't believe people change. I'll tell everybody something. No one stays the same. No one stays the same.
Absolutely right.
Everybody changes every single day. And you have a lot of people that say, well, Trump is this and Trump is that. Well, all of us were this and that at some point. Right? If not for the intervention of the Father, all of us would be condemned.
We were
and
all
no
sinners.
one deserves. And that's right. People, how you hear people say, well, I deserve better. No, you deserve death. But through Christ, we have life.
Amen.
We can have that life more abundantly. So God makes the change, right? He makes that change. And a lot of people still right now to this day, they won't accept it. They don't know Trump. They know what they heard about Trump.
Right.
They don't know him. What's happening right now is a lot of people they're about to get to know him, because anybody who endures getting shot at and they get nicked, and their first thought is for the people, that person is genuine. That reminded me of a few missions. That reminds me of other people who got injured on the battlefield, right? And their first thought was for the rest of the troops to make sure they accomplish that mission in safety.
That's a leader.
That's a person who's not thinking about themselves.
That's a leader.
And you'll only know a person in a time of high distress. You will not know a person in peace, because they can act like anybody.
Yep.
But when they are in a stressful situation, if you ever want to know who anybody is, you have to get them when everything erupts. And in Trump's life, everything erupted in that moment. Right? Everything erupted. And the first thing he thought of was the country. So he has a genuine heart for the country. Right? A genuine heart for the country.
That's when you're a leader. When your first thing you do is you think about the rest of the people. You think about who else might have got shot, who else is in danger. Because that's what a leader does, and because he showed courage, the people stayed. I mean, they didn't run. I mean, anytime else that there'd be a shooting in a crowd, people would be running in an absolute panic. But they didn't run. There was something taking place that was supernatural, right, Mike?
Yeah. My definition of a leader is, Pascal?
Okay.
A master servant. In other words,
yes,
he knows how to serve everybody else, and he'll do that to the death. That's a good leader.
Amen.
That's a real good leader. A leader is not somebody who calls all the shots. It's somebody who knows how to serve everybody.
Amen.
Right? That's a leader. And this guy, Trump, is not the same person.
No.
The Lord showed me somebody a long time ago, and I talked to COT about it. I call him ears. Right?
Yes.
And people have heard that. And then Trump gets shot in the ear. I knew that was him. It's a different person. Right? Because somebody asked me, they said, well, is it Trump? I said, no, this is a different person.
This is different.
And then I said, I don't know. I'm just called this guy Mr. Ears. Right? He's coming on the scene. He's coming on the scene, Mr. Ears is, as the next president. And then Trump gets shot in the ear. I thought that was funny. But I refer to him as Mr. Ears, right? I could feel that when he got nicked in his ear. There's a chunk missing out of his ear, right?
Right.
Mr. Ears. And so, but that's not the same person.
No.
It's just not. But I know, according to what the Lord showed me, here it comes. Here comes the trial. We're going to need that type of resiliency for the time ahead.
The
We're going to
trial.
all need to be real. We're going to need to be real.
The trial
Yep,
is coming.
It's coming.
A trial of our
coming.
faith. So a fiery
It's
trial,
coming.
fiery trial of our faith. When
coming.
you talk about 20 million people dead, there can't be a worse trial than 20 million people dead.
That's awful.
What did you see caused it, Mike?
Those were missiles. They were coming out of Pastor Paul. There was people were in one setting. I could see people. They were having this little picnic thing, right? There's a bunch of family members around and stuff. And all of a sudden, one of the wives, as someone looked up, and then somebody else looked up, and then you heard this moan, this soft moaning. Nobody could understand what they were saying. There were missiles coming down, and when they hit, the aftermath was certain.
Right.
The aftermath was certain. So that lets me know that something, if all the rest of it is happening like that, now people could say, it is subjective or whatever. But
well, can I ask you a question when you say missiles?
Yes,
because
sir.
we did get I asked people for if you had a question. I'm not going to probably get them all in, but there was one person who is an insider who just sent in a question, a statement, said what they have heard in the chatter is that there are nuclear missiles that have been repositioned toward the East Coast, especially targeting New York and Washington, D.C. Do you have any information on that?
Well, I know that North Korea recently was with their new equipment. They finally assembled. They have a different assignment because they have missiles pointed towards the USA, every city in the USA. So their concentration could be in a specific position. I also know that they have, of course, the active heat balloons are up, right?
Yeah.
I also know that Russia has those autonomous submarines that are still out aloft. Think of a Tomahawk cruise missile, but in this case, it's a submarine, right? That's doing this thing by itself. And it's autonomous, which means they released this some years ago. It'll stay operational for 20, 25 years. Most subs like that are nuclear anyway, but it's autonomous. And naturally, it has warheads on it. So it can also do damage to us. I know that outside of, very near to Florida, there's some concentrated efforts happening right outside of Florida due to the Cuban waters. And so and I know the Gulf is going to be in bad shape, but we have quite a few instances where it's very easy to conceive that somebody has targeted our cities. I'll tell you this: this faction of this Middle Eastern coalition.
Yeah.
The unholy alliance, those folks, they want Trump dead. They want him dead.
Yeah.
They want him dead right now. They do.
Wow.
They want him dead. They want him dead. And so I guess my point is this: if they really want that, they're going to have to act before he gets in office.
Right.
So you better believe he needs prayer. He's going to need a lot. And Biden, he's not out of the woods either, because they want to eliminate U.S. leadership.
You've been saying that. Take them both out. In other words, They've been trying to do that.
They want leadership gone. If they can get rid of leadership, they can maximize some of the chaos in Washington, D.C., which means orders are delayed, right? That means the military machine is going to slow down due to clarification of orders. It's tough enough with with a real president. Imagine if there is no president at that appointed time, right? That means Kamala Harris is in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to stop at Joe. They're going to maximize it. They're trying to maximize.
They're trying to take our country down.
They're trying to make a move here. They're trying to make a move here. They're trying to make a move because we are like this. They see us as an oppressive nation. This is how they see us. That this colonialism that we operate by, all these things we operate by, they don't want it as part of their future. China said that 3 days ago. Putin seconded. He would second that one. The Middle Eastern folks are saying the same thing. They do not want the USA, right, to be the go or no go element.
So
in their future,
is
they
Russia,
don't want that.
So Russia, China, and Iran, and that Islamic coalition, are they trying to take us out? We're the strong man. You got to subdue America so that you can walk through Israel. I mean, are they trying to be the new world order, the one world government? Got to take America out. Is that what? Are they making a move right now? Everybody?
Yes, they are. They are. Pastor, China and all those countries, Russia and that Middle Eastern unholy alliance call for reform of the economic governance system, right? They're calling for it. You have European elements, and France is in trouble. We have the Olympics coming up. Big mistake in my book. I could be totally wrong.
No,
that's
I agree with you.
Security risk. Right? Yes. I wouldn't do that. So what we see now is the entire international order is shifting. It is shifting. The old system is being destroyed right before our eyes.
Wow.
And you have these Soros dedicated individuals who will only, they'll only seem to accelerate the operation. But they're doing it. They have to do it prior to President Trump getting into office. They have to do that because once he gets into office, he's declared commander-in-chief. It's going to be over.
It's gonna be,
they know it's going to be over
because he's going to tighten up he's going to tighten things up everywhere.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. Because he's not going to sit down and talk for years.
No,
while, this country is.
Well, he's only got 4 years, and you figured he's only got 2. Because after 2, then everybody's starting to work on who's next, and the political process. He's got 2 really good years to do everything he can to secure the nation. He has 4. He'll work to the last day he's there, but he'll do it, won't he, Mike?
He'll get in there. His character has been. You know what? He's gone through something that I've seen so many times. You see an individual who has a heart for something. They're not fully qualified for it, but they have a heart for something. Then they start going through this crucible, and they go through this training period of life. Well, God refines them. He puts them under the highest pressure. In fact, is this not proof that the higher the pressure of these situations of life you go through, the higher the position on the other side? Like Christians are royalty. Why would God have a Christian go through nothing? Yet they're supposed to be royalty with full authority on this earth right now. They got to go through something.
Yes.
So they can be strong enough, right? Because a weak person with authority is dangerous. That's dangerous. They operate by emotions. They don't operate by any procedure for the good of the other people. They operate from fear's perspective. And that's a very dangerous person. When a person gets scared and they start making decisions, that's very dangerous. But it's almost like Trump has been put under this enormous pressure to train him for what we are all about to go through. And if this attempted assassination is any indication of what we're about to go through, I think it's a good representation of what's about to happen to America, period. That means we're not going to be destroyed, but we're going to get hit. Right? We'll survive, but we're going to get hit. I think that is a good parallel, a good representation.
Yeah.
And you can almost see the elements.
There's kind of a comparison here. Hosea and Jeremiah both got put through the test before Israel had to suffer.
Yeah, they did.
Am I right?
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Oh, there was a 7.4, Mike, just so you know. We talked about it before you got on it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm watching the when that happens, of course, Haiti is tied to that plate. Haiti is.
Really?
And so are 2 portions of Russia. But I'm always watching the Coast plate.
Yep.
Because if that plate starts to shift, Mexico is going to have a volcanic eruption, a pretty enormous one. And at that point, we're going to lose the San Andreas. Right?
Okay, that's some of the questions people ask is when is the big one, Mike? And
when that is so. Mexico is like a trigger
Okay.
for that entire fault line. And if the coast plate is dislodged, right? I mean, without it, with it, the plates are held pretty stable. Without it, if it crumbles, if it shifts, um, there's no way that subduction zone is going to survive anything. It's going to let loose, and then, well, you're going to have a land crack. Here's what's so dangerous about that, though. I hope everybody understands that if California has that type earthquake, it's going to be a long durational earthquake. So it's not going to shake and stop. It's going to shake and continue. And when it
Wow.
does this, it will affect the Grand Canyons. And when that happens, it will affect the Mississippi, because underneath the Mississippi, they've been doing land surveys for a long time. They have new methods of looking inside the earth, and they're starting to find things that will make your hair raise up on the back of your neck, right? We have another Yellowstone type issue right here in America. Two of them. So one was spotted under New York, obviously. The other one is right there below the Mississippi, right?
Yep.
It is long. It has multiple chambers, it looks like. So an earthquake on the West Coast would dislodge this continent, period, right? No wonder the Native Americans call this Turtle Island, because it has an ability to shift. The whole thing can crack and start turning upside down, this continent that we're on. So, yeah, if California is let loose, it will affect the entirety of the USA, right? Because a lot of people thought that, the New Madrid was the dangerous one. No, there are other faults in America that they have not disclosed. One of the reasons they won't disclose them is because people are smarter these days. People have access to the internet.
Yeah.
And if they know of a fault line, and if they know what type it is, because they will go and investigate and find out the details, then they will eventually learn what threat we're truly under, and they will spread that news. They want everybody to be tranquilized up until the last moment, right?
Wow.
They don't want people to know these things, because
No.
it will cause them to have a worse job. They can't maintain the populace that way. Plus, we would interfere with their people. The first thing people will say is, there's no way they're not preparing. I'm going to go, they start checking out things, and then they would understand why certain things are happening all around the world like they are. These people who are in the know, they are preparing, and it takes a good 8 to 10 years, 8 to 15 years to truly prepare for this.
How
You
about
can't prepare for what's about to happen
so?
in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years.
Right.
You can't do it.
So
Takes a long
the
time.
Cocos Plate's very important to watch. You've been watching a long time in the
Oh, yeah.
subduction zone. What about one of the questions that came in, Mike, was, does he have any update for us on the wall of meteors that are coming to hit us? Do we have a?
Well, we're not going to miss them. We're headed right for it. We're not going to miss them.
Do you have
On
a
a
timing, any kind of an ideal? Do we have any ideal on the timing on that?
There is, but it's probably not very smart to say anything about that right now at this moment.
Okay.
But I'll say this. As we continue to trek through space, right, we're going pretty fast, this entire solar system is. And we have a corkscrew type motion, a corkscrew plus an up and down, like a AC sine wave, right? We go up and down like that around the galaxy. We're headed into another part of space we've not been in before. So we've been traveling this entire time, and we're about to encounter a lot of gases, which means a lot of debris, right? Gases look so benign on a picture, but you're talking about some huge particulates and particles the size of planets. We're about to go into it. Now, we have an asteroid belt. If anything obstructs that asteroid belt, we're going to get pummeled, right? And the solar system is designed in a specific way where Jupiter keeps that asteroid belt in check. It will add to it. It will build it up, and it acts like a shield. We have the Van Allen belts, which also help through its magnetic shielding properties. It can actually start to redirect and increase gravitational pull on a certain side of Jupiter where things are kind of pulled around and ejected. all that's going to fail once we go through the heavier debris. It will begin with sporadic inbound impacts, right? So, kind of like right now, how many people are aware that we have impacts every single week on the Earth?
Yeah. I mean, we
We're
don't
not we're not talking about tiny ones either.
I mean,
We're talking about
most
some
of them
pretty
are hit.
sizable ones.
Most of them hit the ocean, probably, but some do hit
The
land,
ocean or
right?
Mexico.
Really?
The ocean or
Why
Mexico or
Mexico?
part of Russia, because there is an anomaly in Mexico, right? That planes do not fly over. They do not. They don't send spacecraft over this area. It's part of the magnetic field shielding around the Earth. It goes into the Earth in that area and is amplified and then weakened, is somewhat chaotic. They call it an anomaly. That anomaly is moving past Paul. As the equator shifts, it's going to move up to us because
Talk
the
about
Earth is
that.
moving.
Talk
The
about
Earth is moving.
That's one of
right?
the questions. Any updates on the equator
Well,
movement?
yes, the Earth is moving, and for a long time now, the North Pole has been shifting over the years faster and faster and faster and faster.
Right.
Now, let me tell you here's what this means. Should we continue, do you not know that in America at 10:15 p.m., right, one of these summers, probably, it could be next summer, but at 10:15 p.m., the sun will still be up.
Okay.
10:15 p.m. at night.
That's east.
Every night, the sun will, that means the sun will not set until about 10:30.
That's that. So you're saying
That's a
we
shift.
will have tilted. We will have tilted at
There
a
you
different
go.
angle.
There you go. So we're starting to alter. We're going to be altering big time now. These small, tiny movements right now, they move exponentially, which means as we continue to go on through these processes, things will happen faster and faster and faster, right? The Earth will be out of its orbit at some point. They already know this. They know this. You know how when I got in trouble for this when I was a kid, but somebody told me one time, right? They go, they discovered a rock on Mars that was here on Earth, right?
Yes.
Well, I was a young guy.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking about this like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. Like, how could a rock from Mars how could they know us from Mars in the first place? And they haven't been to Mars. That's the dumbest thing. And I got in trouble for that, right? Because I wanted validation. I said, how do you know us from Mars? How do you know? Well, because it has this. But how do you know that's what's on Mars? See, at that time, they didn't send anything up there.
Right.
They didn't send anything. They just made that up, right? Saying it's from Mars. But the same way they do that, they have told us, they have given us the illusion that the Earth has always been this way, that east and west has always been east and west. That's not true.
Okay.
That is not true, right? The Earth has gone through some violent changes, and they know that the sun is the primary driver of this global warming.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They know facts about the Earth. They will not share. They know what the first iridium layer is. They know what the second iridium layer is. They know what's in between. That lava, when it settles, it'll do so orientated based on the magnetic field lines of the Earth. They know what the chaos region within that. They know exactly what that. They know some things about this Earth, and they're preparing because they know these things are cyclical, which means something we've never seen in our lives we're about to be exposed to. These people know this. They also know we don't have a lot of time. When you hear these folks sit up and say, well, you have nothing to worry about, or point an object out this, coming back in 10 years, please don't listen to that. We have more immediate issues. They know. It's just like,
well,
for
you've
example,
been saying you've been saying that if we can get through 2025, because I keep bringing up Apophis in 2029, and
I'm not worried about
you're not
Apophis.
worried about Apophis because you're
No,
like,
I'm
we
not.
got bigger problems. And
we do.
I want you to know, you talk about that rock and Mars. During this webinar we're doing, Aliens Among Us, there's an individual who talks about the rock they found on the Earth that's from Mars. And they know it now because we've now had a rover up there and we know what Mars's surface is, and there definitely is. But also, Mike, we've in this webinar, we have a scientist who has confirmed Planet X, or planet number 9, and they know exactly where it is. He said we know the exact size of it.
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
just can't see it because
Yeah.
it's dark or
Right.
it's too far and it's dark.
Yeah, well, then I'll say the parts of the DoD can. They know a lot about it and its system, but it's not something they're going to be forthcoming about.
No, he
because
said that.
even when you're a university professor, right?
Yep.
They understand that if you're involved in a certain type of engagement, you may not need to know.
Yeah. There's only so much
and
they
they're not,
even get to know, right?
They're not. Yeah. Well, they're not going to disclose that to a university professor because if that professor has a conscience, he's going to tell everybody, right?
Yep.
He's going to risk everything. He's going to risk it all and tell everybody, because they hold a lot of credibility, and what he say matters, right? A university professor has credibility with the public, and if they say something, the public is going to hear them. So they're not going to tell them that. That rock on Mars, though, that's a different rock they're admitting for Mars. And so I believe that, but not that first one.
Not that first one.
Pulled that one out then. They did. I don't know where they got it from. They just, name stuff. But I guess my point behind it was this. They create a narrative. They talk about the narrative they created, and that's all people know. Now, you do that for one generation, and it becomes fact.
Yeah.
The next generation, and people will begin to defend somebody else's lie. That's what we have today. We have people who defend the lies of people who have come before them, right?
Yeah.
Which is why now you're having people take a second look and they're saying, wait a minute, this is not like they said it was, and this is not happening like they said it was, like global warming, right? They tried to pin global warming on human activity. But now people are starting to read reports of climate shifts happening on Jupiter, Uranus and Neptune and Mars and all these different planets. They know we're not up there. And once it's confirmed, they're like, oh boy, this is not, this can't be us.
Right.
Anyway, that's what happens with that. That's affecting like these ice sheets. When an ice sheet breaks off, right?
Yep.
Because the temperature increase is exponential also. The melting is exponential, which means if the ice melted, if 100 miles of ice, or let's say, how many tons of ice melt per year? It's like 150 billion tons of ice or something like that melt per year, right? 150 billion metric tons of ice per year. That rate has increased a lot. So every single year, more and more ice melts, and it's melting from the bottom up, not from the top down.
Wow.
From the bottom up.
Yeah.
And as that continues, the anchor of these ice sheets, they're going to collapse.
It's going to cause it's going to be a massive amount.
There you go. It's going to be a tsunami. It's going to be a global tsunami that will take place. Not what a big, 500-foot, 1,000-foot wall, no. But maybe 10 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 feet. That's enough. That's enough to cause every front yard to be covered in Tennessee, in Kentucky, right? And to connect with the Great Lakes. If you look at the topology of the U.S., it's going to cause some problems.
What?
Now, of course, that water will end up receding, but the sea levels will have changed by then, right?
The Great Lakes.
Because that will also trigger earthquakes, volcanism, right? That's too heavy of a shift. Anytime you have a tsunami, you run a risk you affect the imbalance of the plates, which have fluid. They have fluid underneath them. Sometimes they're connected, sometimes not. It's molten rock underneath them, sometimes not. But you affect the balance of that, and then all of a sudden you have continental drift, abrupt continental drift. So we're headed. We're already there. We're heading into a place that's just uncharted, save for prophecy. Save for those who were alive at the time when it happened before. We don't have a comparison. And it's going to be rough, and it just so happens.
We just had another earthquake.
We live on the earth at this time.
Okay, so now Alaska, they're in the Aleutian Islands, just had a 5.9.
That's good news, though. That's good news.
Okay.
If you look at the way these plates are connected, that's good news. So Russia, Russia should have one probably in a couple of hours or something like that. Those are relief points, actually. The vibrations.
It's the same plate. If you follow this 5.9 up in Alaska, it goes right along the subduction zone all the way down to Mexico, all the way down eventually to the big 7.4 that hit in Chile. It's all one big long plate.
Yeah. So they're connected because
To Russia.
we have volcanism that we have to go through too. This proximity or this gravitational pull that people are experiencing without knowing about it is going to start causing these geo effects.
Okay, talk to us about that. This gravitation.
Well, we have people probably have a whole lot more pain in their knees and in their legs, and they feel the slightest temperature changes. The other half of people are having issues with their skin. I'd like to know how many people are having issues with their skin as far as dryness. It's odd to say, but there's a reason for that. And now that everything is digital, right? Most calibrated pieces of equipment are calibrated at the server level, which means if they adjust a Geiger counter in Florida, but you live in, Canada, right? They can adjust your Geiger counter and alter it a little bit so that it is now giving you a lower reading when in fact we have a higher reading, right? Things like that are happening. That's happening with aircraft. Their altimeters and all the equipment in aircraft was changed out. So their calibration, they can have a center of calibration offsite. That's happening. That has happened. All this to hide the fact that, of course, everybody knows about GMO food, right?
Yeah.
Try to eat some of this microwave popcorn and see. It's like you're eating some I don't know. It's like the kernels are made out of glass or something, right? They're pretty tough because the food is more resilient. People are picking up rubber watermelons. You can bend the thing in half and it won't break.
That's crazy.
Or the outside peels off.
Okay.
Right? Fish meat is the same way. They're selling fish where you can actually mash the fish up. Mash it up like Play-Doh, right? Squeeze all the water out. And then as soon as you put it back into the water again, it resumes its original shape.
What?
Yeah. So you have things like that happening.
Why is that happening?
Because they've altered food. They had to alter food because of higher doses of radiation. Radiation, by the way, causes skin problems. And here's something. This cancer issue, right?
Yeah.
Cancer. Now, it's a known fact that cancer rates went up as technology got better, so they said, right? That's what they said. In truth, the cancer rate is parallel to global warming.
It's connected.
Because the sun is causing it.
That's true. And more UV rays. And the Bible told us that the grass is going to burn up. And we're going to have, the sun is going to bring great heat. Men will be scorched and gnaw their tongues for pain and yet won't repent. These are signs in Revelation, right?
Yeah. And we're not, it's just like people are going to read this in a couple of months about some of the high temperatures that we're seeing in this month of July. 158. Are you kidding me?
That's crazy.
Degrees.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you said there was going to be 300 mile an hour winds and tornadoes, and we had one this year. Okay. You said we was going to have straight line winds that could hit 150 miles an hour, and I think we've hit that this year. So there is some things that you're right. Up in Indiana, there was a straight line wind last week that just blew down a bunch of trees and blew a restaurant over. And it was not a tornado. It was just a straight line winds. Yeah. They don't even know how hard this wind was because it's in the middle of nowhere.
And we can't take that. We can't.
No.
That's why we have a bad infrastructure, right? Our infrastructure is falling apart, is crumbling. No matter what they do.
Look at Houston.
It is falling apart.
Look how long
that's a night.
Why does it take so long? What's wrong?
Need I remind everybody of the power outage they had about 3-4 years ago, right?
Yeah, during the winter.
And they couldn't get it. Everybody was starting to talk about solar panels and everything else. Here's a fact. It's hot in Texas, right? Where you have heat, you have a degradation of electronic components, transformers, copper wire, zinc, whatever they lace it with. You have severe degradations of our power grid. Now, Texas represents most of the world as far as how the power system is going. So while everybody's talking about, watch out for the Carrington event, nope. no, 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 no. A 10% increase. Oh, I'm sorry. 2% increase in solar activity would destroy a big portion of our grid. We can't take it. The copper's made with impurities in it to the point where that copper is just weak. It's very weak. It can carry electronic current. It's very flexible when it gets hot. But the cooling and heating of that copper wire destroys it, right? They put zinc alloys and other alloys in it. Aluminum's a big deal now. It's not working. So they tried to bury some of the other lines. But then the water table is fluctuating so bad, it's causing, premature degradation of all underwater components. The water system, they're going to have to change the entirety of the water system next year anyway. The gas system is compromised. There are gas leaks all over America right now because the pipes, some of the piping that they used back in the 60s, and so they're gone.
Yeah, they're no good, right?
And the gas is going right through the dirt. And so we have so many issues and problems. And the enemy, here's the worst part about it. Our enemy reads those reports about our infrastructure. They know where the weak points are. They know where our vulnerabilities are. And I'm telling you right now, they have the personnel and the equipment within the USA to take full advantage of it. They do.
Let me ask you then, all this information is available not to the general public, but to Washington. We give away billions. We give away trillions of dollars while we let our infrastructure crumble. Does it make sense to you? I mean, so at what point does somebody stand up and say, that's it, okay? For the next 10 years, everything's going to be invested in America. We have to, including our military, our infrastructure, our roads, our pipes. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to dig, baby, dig. We're going to become energy independent. I mean, don't we have to finally make that decision as a people?
Well, yeah, you have certain individuals, when they get into power, they line their pockets. They want everything to go by these experimental procedures, and they continue to line their pockets. So they take profits off that stuff, right? But when you have another group in power, they tend to, they're not worried about lining their pockets, right? They start to do things in this country again. And so, you're looking at those changes, alterations that way. So one party, they just amplify the desires of flesh. I'll put it that way.
Thank you.
And the other party is a bit different. Now, everybody has flaws and things like that.
Sure.
But I'll tell you something. This edifying of flesh stuff, I'm totally against. Absolutely, 100%.
Well, yeah, it's not going to do any good. It won't do any good.
Well, because it just degrades the quality of life for everybody, right? It causes unnecessary evil to spring up, and I know that we're facing some spiritual challenges here that people have not been introduced to yet. And that's the whole thing behind this UFO stuff, is we're in a very different time. And if people knew the elements that were truly involved, which they will, because even I'm losing my patience in trying to wait until some demonstration comes forward. My goodness, if people don't know this, they're going to get the future wrong, is what they're going to do, because they don't know, they have no idea the cruelty involved in this supposedly harmless subject. The subject is not harmless. It's quite devastating.
This webinar we're going to do, Aliens Among Us, and we're going to dig into, and I've got to interview you yet. I'm going to interview Stan Dale tomorrow and Larry Radlin. I've already got several people. Mike, this is a big issue, isn't it? What
really is.
Are you? You've said you're ready for this, so I'm going to interview you next week, and we'll be ready for this webinar. Is it important that people hear your message in this webinar?
Yeah, it touches base, basketball, with the spiritual aspect of things, but a very real aspect of things, right? It's something I've been waiting on. It's something I started COT for, right?
For this moment. Yeah. So
because I'm called to come forward at a specific time.
I got you. And you could share some stuff maybe.
That's why that subject is close to home.
Okay.
It's very personal to me. But it should not be mistaken for some benevolent thing or some
Right.
kind
It's
thing or some
evil.
passive
Evil.
thing.
Evil.
This could cost a person everything. And when I say, listen, a person would rather lose their family members, all the limbs on their body, than to lose what's inside their bodies, right?
Right.
They would rather face a full army of ISIS that's ready to torture you for years, right? Than to fall into the hands of what people have fallen into the hands to. So this subject is by no means passive. These things are inherent tricksters. I mean,
Wow.
they have people honestly believing that somehow they mean people no harm. And
It's a
people
lie?
have
Is it a
bought
lie?
that hook, line, and sinker.
Oh, boy.
They bought it
You
hook,
got to
line, and
share
sinker.
that. You have to share this in this. I mean, you've got to push past some stuff, and you got to get that out to us, Mike, because people are trying to embrace it. They run around with T-shirts. The aliens are coming. I mean, they got to understand what's going on here, don't they?
Yeah, but I'll give one hint, and that'll be it, though. But when everybody's small, there's something a person is always introduced to. Doesn't matter what race you're of, you're introduced to a specific life form when you're small, and you're introduced to that for a reason, not because it's just a fun thing. No, they start to indoctrinate people when they're young, so they will never ever see it. You ready? Dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That
Dinosaurs.
little toys.
It is a
dinosaurs.
mandate. It's a mandate that every human being be introduced to. Now, God didn't give that mandate. I'll throw that hint out there.
Okay.
The Father did not give that mandate, right? It's one of the only things that they corroborate. Yes, they were huge and they were all over the place, and that's it. But everybody is introduced into them, so they seem harmless, even friendly. By some of the movies that they have out there, they create a desire for it, but it's a mandate. It's a mandate, so that nobody can ever suspect, see, or go further down that line of thinking. Right?
We're gonna see what it is you've got for us in this webinar, folks. So don't miss it. Get your tickets and don't miss it. Wow. Mike, I think I'll let you go. The president is still speaking out there, and we'll go see what he has to say. I don't think he's done. He's got a lot to say, probably, and he's coming to it from a humble position, and we thank God for that. Yes. So thank you, Mike, for being with us tonight. You covered. What's amazing is you covered 9 out of 10 questions. Okay, so I didn't give you the 10th one.
Oh, really? Okay.
And you covered the main thing. When you opened up here with everything that's going on. So appreciate all the good information, great information, and mostly thank you for your heart for the Lord and for the people.
It's always an honor, Pastor Paul. God bless you.
God bless. The honor's mine. God bless you.
All right.
Amen, brother.
God bless.